The Shaking My Head podcast features interesting discussions about topics that have frustrated the hosts, Alex and David. Each episode is meant to question the quirks of society and bring to light subjects that intrigue or bother us. If you're here because something has you shaking your head, even if it's just life, you're in the right place.
Hey guys, want to introduce Chris Bong with us today, our guest. We're going to be talking about capitalization.
What's up?
What's up, Chris? How you doing?
Oh, good. Long time no see. It's been, what, a couple years?
Exactly.
I feel like it's been longer than a couple of years, but
Probably.
yeah,
It
let's
was,
go with
what,
that.
3 years ago?
It must have been like 2017 or 18.
Yeah, we went to New York for your birthday, right?
We did.
Was that?
Went to all the fancy places.
Yeah. Something I guess I've been noticing lately is like the debundling and monetization of everything. Anything from like microtransactions in video games to DLCs to debundling of airline tickets. That's kind of what I proposed to Alex, a couple months back.
And then, so DLCs is what digital, was it
Downloadable.
downloadable content?
Yeah,
Downloadable content on like games, or just even on phones where like you might get like an app for free, but then if you want other extra things, then you have to pay extra for the extras within the game itself.
Yeah. Or sometimes, not even complete games come out and it's like, oh, buy the remainder of the story, and 6 months later, it's another $20 or whatever.
Yeah. I mean, even with like the Nintendo Switch, I think they first had free online play, and then now you have to pay, I don't know, like a few bucks a month. But everything is, basically value add these days. Right.
Have any of these moves or anything like that impacted you to a point where you no longer support a company? Like
Amazon.
Yeah. What have they done, I guess, that you don't support them because of?
Okay, so I do like, I mean, the 2-day shipping with Prime is very convenient. You can just go online, click whatever you want, and just buy shit. But the problem with that is it's because of the convenience, a lot of these small mom and pop shops are closing down. And I may be biased because my family owns a business, and I think yours does too, right, Chris?
Yeah, but we're not in the same
space
as Amazon, so.
That's true. I mean, but anyways, the whole problem with that is all these mom and pop shops are closing down. Amazon's just making more and more money, and I don't think it's necessarily going to anything beneficial besides Amazon making more money. I think it promotes bad behavior for humans because Amazon made it so easily available for everyone to buy stuff. Everyone's just like, I need it right now, and if I don't have it right now, it's like people just become intolerant of waiting to have something sent to them. And I think it's just bad behavior for human beings, and I think it's gonna affect everyone in a negative way.
So if we look at like the airlines and how there's been a rise in the low-cost carriers, I think Spirit and Frontier is getting really popular, at least with young people these days. And it kind of just arose from a company sees that there's a pocket or a demand group that they can fulfill. They see a group of customers that they can fulfill. Now, they took it to the extreme where they're like, okay, you don't get any free snacks. We're going to charge for water.
Yeah, not serving water is ridiculous. I feel like that's a human decency kind of thing, but continue. Sorry.
But I honestly think it's still it's almost like a pure form of you pay for what you get.
It is.
So, yeah, I think their system is more like you add amenities. So you get a base price, and the base price is literally just your seat. It's not even like a comfortable seat. It's the bare bones. And then
you don't even get a seat. You get a right to go where you're going. If you want to decide where you sit, you have to pay for that.
Correct. If you want to decide where you sit, you have to pay.
You pay for the right to get from where your destination is to where you are to where you're going.
Right.
and then eventually they will assign you a seat because they are not allowed to have you flying, standing up the whole time.
Oh,
Right. So
okay.
you'll get a seat, and then the question, I mean, yeah, the location
Yeah.
you have to pay to choose. The comfort level of the seat, like if you want more padding, I think in the front section there's a little more padding you got to pay. If you want some food, you got to pay. But it's definitely like the purest form of you're paying for what you get. If you want, and you may be paying the same price as a seat on, I don't know, United or something, to the same destination. To get the same quality, you have to pay basically the same price. If you're willing to sacrifice a couple of those things, then you could conceivably pay less.
So do you guys ever feel tricked by, I guess, do you guys fly them, and do you guys ever feel tricked by it? Or do you ever see those instances at airports where you see people screaming about, what do you mean I don't get to sit next to my child because, what do you mean I have to pay for a seat? Do you guys ever feel like mistreated or anything like that?
I don't, but I also know what I'm getting myself into. And also, when you're going through checkout, it says if you want to pay for a seat, cost this much extra. So I think people are just being ignorant. It's the same thing as like, I just want to bring this up. We don't talk about it right now, but it's the same thing with like Uber, right? A lot of people didn't know about. They say they don't know about Uber Pool, and they're like, oh, it's so much cheaper. There's a reason why things are cheaper. It's just not like, oh yeah, it's cheaper and I get the same level of service. I remember when Uber Pool came out and like the Lyft share or Lyft, whatever Lyft is, people just complain and bitch at the drivers all the time about it, which isn't the driver's fault, right? It's like something between Uber and Lyft and the driver and the rider. But I mean, the thing is, you should question why things are cheaper. There's a reason why everything's cheaper than something else. You're paying for what you get. So to answer your question, no, I don't really get surprised by this, and I'm expecting things to happen. But I know that going in because I'm paying a lot less. And so like
Sorry,
the only other thing I'm going to say is I think I've been usually lucky enough where I'll actually get on a flight. It may be delayed, but I'll get on a flight. But I mean, honestly, flights are always delayed with like any other airline as well. So,
So then
as long as my flight doesn't get canceled, it's fine. Anyways, continue.
So are you guys more offended by the legacy carriers doing basic economy?
Yes.
Where you're now you're buying an American Airlines, United, Delta flight, and then you don't know, and then suddenly your boarding group -1 million, and you get there, you're like, I want to buy the seat. Oh, I want to select my seat. Oh, it's $40 now to sit in the middle seat in the back, or something like that.
I'll say like two things about that. I think now, since it's been implemented for a while now, I've kind of gotten used to it. Like I expect to not be able to choose my seat because I'm the person who always is paying for the cheapest. I'm buying the cheapest ticket. And so I think it's a little bit of, I've been spoiled in, I guess, the first half of my life where you would go on a flight, the seats would be nice, or I mean nicer than they are now. You can check a bag. Your carry-on didn't have size limitations. All of that stuff in the past was like included in the price of a ticket. And now with this tiered system, I'm having to be comfortable with the fact that I understand I'm choosing the cheapest price and this is what I'm getting. And the second point I want to make is just if we step back and think about like why companies are doing that, I think there's also, and just piggybacking off of the topic we were talking about before, just overall capitalism. So a company's goal is basically to make profits, right, for their shareholders, profits as a company. And every year you have to like basically exceed your previous year's goal. I don't think any company's goal is never to be, I want to make less money this year than the previous year. And that's like in perpetuity, right? So you always have to provide better returns for a shareholder, or you have to show like the company's improving, and you have to show, okay, we can keep making money because that affects the stock price. And so all these external pressures, I think kind of force companies to think about how do we extract more dollars or create more tiers. Like you create tiers so people who must check a bag, they will pay the extra. And we can take it to the opposite extreme where someone will overpay to be in like the business class. You know, they're making these super nice business class lay down recliner rooms and charging extravagant prices. You see what is the Sky Pass, the premium lounges
Economy.
And stuff like that. People
Sky
are
Clubs?
paying for those, yeah, and there's like membership programs now. I think airlines are kind of putting more dollars into that now. Like the lounge is like a really popular thing now. It's like a hip thing, but it's also a way for them to add more dollars. So I think all these things are just causing like what we see in society where there's like a wealth gap. Well, now with the offerings that a company has, they have to provide a wealth, like a lot of tiers of different options for their customers. And it's going to strain the system. So people like us who want to pay an affordable price, well, now they're reducing the options. They're making you have to add on stuff if you want the same kind of experience you used to have.
Full disclosure, I work for a company and I travel a lot, so I don't actually fly low-cost carriers, and I have no idea what you're talking about with them. So,
Right. So I actually want to hear what you have to say, Chris, and I think it's gonna be different from what David and I have to say because I think we're not really loyal to a particular airline. But before you hear your opinion, I just want to say that I understand. I kind of understand why like these legacy airlines are providing these different tiers, but also their services always suck. Like American-based airlines are just always shitty, and now that they're charging you, and I feel like, and I understand there's always price increases as as time passes by, but you're essentially paying more for worse shit.
But do you think it's a function of them getting like fat? Like they know that you don't have another option or that the other options are just as bad?
So I think they know that they might be better. They think they're better than like the low cost carriers, but also they can get away with it because there's only a certain number of airlines, and maybe there is I don't know if you consider it like collusion, but basically everyone's going to follow each other's pricing structure for the most part, right? But how they do it is very different. So like United, for instance, won't even let you bring on a carry-on. They only even let you bring on a personal bag. And on top of that, you can't get your ticket until someone at when you go up to ticketing counter, you have to show them your bag, and then they have to approve of it. And then if they don't approve of it, you have to pay the extra $50 or whatever for it to be a carry-on bag. And like for Delta,
you can't mobile check in if you're.
No, you're not allowed to.
Really?
If you're basic economy, you cannot mobile check in. You have to actually go there, have a gate agent look at your bag, and then scan their badge before you can get your fucking ticket, which is absolutely dumb. It's just stupid bullshit. And I don't know why United does this, because I feel like they're probably the most hated on airline right now in America.
They do it because someone is still willing to go through that to pay that cheap price. Because at the end of the day, they're not like losing a massive amount of customers since they've implemented this, because there's a pool of people out there who know that the experience is shitty and they hate the experience, but still when they search for flights, United has that ticket is cheap enough, so it's like, okay, I'm gonna buy it.
You're probably right, but it's bullshit. And then what I was gonna say is Delta, because these are the only experiences I have with like basic economy, other than just like flying with a low cost carrier. But for instance, Delta, they basically shame the shit out of you, and then they're like, "Oh, we're boarding zones 1 through 3 at the very end." They're like, "Zone 4, basic economy, you can now board," and they're just trying to shame you. I'm like, well, I'm not gonna give into your bullshit. You can shame me all you want, but I'm not gonna like stand up. Like your principles are bullshit, so I'm not gonna buy into it. But at least I'll say that Delta gives you a carry-on. I guess moving on, Are there any other capitalistic or capitalism related things that bother you?
Okay, so my understanding is like for apps, a lot of apps have two options. They can either do like you pay for the app, whether that's like you pay a one-time fee or you subscribe. Oh yeah, and you're seeing, just off tangent, I'm seeing that a lot now. Like if I look on news articles, like New York Times or something, now it's all, or ESPN, I'll click on an article and now it'll say like, oh, you need to have the membership to read the entire article, which is which I kind of don't like now. But whereas in the past you got to read everything. But going back to what I was saying before, I mean, with apps you have the two options. You can pay for a subscription or pay upfront one time, or now they're doing, the app is free. You can get 70% of the core activity, whether it be the game or the functionality. And then if you want to unlock or open up or do additional stuff, you have to pay like for coins, or you got to pay for little unlocks. So I think these are just two monetization strategies. I mean, because the developers putting out the app there because they want to make money. If they're not going to get it from a subscription or you paying for the app, then either they go with ads or they go with like this kind of monetization of, okay, so the app is free. You get like 70% of the excitement. If you want to have additional stuff, you can pay smaller dollar increments. Maybe that sways people. They're like, oh, I'm only paying $1 for something extra. I mean, I've done it. I'm guilty of paying for things in apps.
So one thing I want to say is, for instance, where it's like a free app or a free program or whatever, and then if you want to unlock more features or whatever, I don't necessarily object to that, but I think in some situations, if you just paid for it straight up, it's cheaper than slowly adding on these add-ons, and I think that's where they get you. I mean, I guess it's totally up to you to decide if you want to do that or not. But and to answer your question, Chris, about DLCs and whatnot, I think I prefer just having the full game straight up and not having to pay for DLCs. But if it gets you into the game for cheaper, I'm okay with it. Because if I want to pay for the extras, I pay the extras. But if it ends up being where I think a lot of games are where, like you're saying, where you pay the same price, say like it's a game console game, you pay $50, back then you pay $50 now, but you have to pay all this extra money for all these extra, features or whatever. I'm not for that.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of like, I mean, that's what I've been seeing, right? It's like I still play some games, but like I remember when we were in college, StarCraft 2 came out. It's like, oh my God, StarCraft 2, finally, this is the Asian in me coming out. It's like, oh, StarCraft 2, finally. What? This is only one chapter? I had to spend another $40 and get the second chapter? What? There's a third chapter? And you're paying the same price as the original game to get it. Like the original StarCraft was, pay $40 for this game. And then 3-4 years later, oh, it's an expansion pack where they complete more of the story. But, it was like half the price. It was like $20. So it's like that was, because you got your complete story when you got StarCraft 1. But for StarCraft 2, you got you got your one complete story in 3 separate pieces. So I felt like you had to pay a lot more to get that. So that's kind of the trend that I've been seeing. And then like kind of what David said, there's a whole skins thing coming out now, which, maybe I have less offense to because it doesn't actually impact gameplay or your overall experience. It just makes it look cooler. It's like, hey, I spend a lot of time in this, which I guess I'm less offended by or less annoyed by, but
right, because that doesn't actually affect how you get through the game. It's just add-ons that make you look nicer or something like that.
I'd be interested in your opinion. So we have two options these days, and I don't know how often you surf YouTube versus Facebook, but like when I look at Facebook now on my phone, the ads are like almost just
every other post.
It's every other post, and I'm like so used to it now. Like I don't like it, but it's already too built in that I almost don't care anymore. I used to like really hate it, and I don't care anymore. And now juxtapose that with YouTube. So YouTube has ads now in every single video. Every video, like you open it up, it's got an ad, and you can pay for YouTube Red, right? I don't know what, I think it's maybe $12.99 or $9.99 a month.
15, but you can add up to 5 other people.
Okay, so you can basically pay for no ads. I don't think
Yeah.
you can pay for no ads in Facebook. But I feel like the Facebook ads, I'm already so used to it. I would, even if they gave me an option to pay for no ads, I wouldn't do it. Whereas the YouTube ads are really painful. They make it in such a way that it's like really painful. I guess it's because you have to watch the ad. You can't just skip it like you do in Facebook where you just scroll up.
But can you not skip after like 5 seconds?
But it still disrupts your video.
But I still have to like watch 5 seconds.
Oh, well, especially if
and then
it's like a longer video too, where they put like ads in between.
Intermittent ads in the middle.
Or even shorter videos. You're halfway through and they're like, and then they post like right in the middle, and it's like, I just wanted to watch 2 minutes of this, and now I have an ad in the middle or something like that.
Don't
But
you
you see,
remember those
Facebook does that too, though. So
What?
like, if you look at some videos on Facebook, there are ads. I don't know if it's Facebook that adds them in, but if you look at a video on Facebook, sometimes you'll watch like a minute of it, or halfway through, and then they'll throw like a video ad in there.
Do they?
So it's not just YouTube. Yeah, I've seen it.
Oh, interesting.
At least on my phone. I don't know about on my computer because I have ad blockers. Because unlike you, David, ads annoy the shit out of me. And if I can use an ad blocker, I will do it because they're basically generating free revenue off of you.
Right.
So, and then to answer your question about YouTube, I've had YouTube Red for like 2 years. Like, it's great not having ad. But I mean, the thing is, like, I use YouTube enough, and I get with the YouTube Red. You also get Google Play Music with it, and you can share it with like 5 other people. So at $3 a month, it's negligible. I mean, like you can also argue that with like Spotify. If you use Spotify on mobile, you don't have a subscription. You can't shuffle music. You get ads in between. So it just comes down to like how often I think you use a certain platform / app / whatever, and then how much, if you're willing to pay extra to get rid of the ads. And one thing I have to say about that is Hulu is the fucking worst about that, because you pay for the basic subscription and you still have ads. To not get ads, you have to pay like another $3 more a month.
Oh,
what the
wow.
fuck is that shit? Yeah, I don't know. To me, that baffles me because you're already paying for a subscription. So shouldn't you not have ads and not have to pay even more?
Technically, Prime
to not
Video
have ads?
does that too.
It does.
Because on Amazon Prime, whenever you like watch an episode of a season or something, they have a little like 20-second preview of a different Amazon show before your episode starts.
Well, that's only if
But
you're
also-
online. If you watch it offline, like if you
Oh,
download
yeah.
it, then they can't. Then they don't do that.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that.
But here's the other thing. Prime, this doesn't necessarily make it that much better, but Prime Video is supposed to be like a free feature to having Prime. I think the primary feature of Prime is the 2-day shipping or 1-day shipping discount thing.
Sure.
And they we give you extra benefits to having Prime versus Hulu, where you actually pay straight up for Hulu to watch videos and they still have ads. Well, okay, so now that you mentioned that, I always forget that you have to pay for Prime, right?
Yeah.
You're basically paying money to get your shit quicker. So if you don't pay for Prime, it's still going to take you like a normal amount of time to get shit.
Right, but time is money.
Time is money, but I'm just saying, like, it's kind of funny how you have to pay more to get things fast, but people are so used to paying for Prime that...
Well, they had to before, right? Like before there was Prime, it was you could pay more for 2-day shipping. You just had to pay more.
Yeah, but it costs a lot more.
Yeah, I mean overall.
Yeah. I mean, I know, I understand. Like,
right.
Prime shipping is overall cheaper, but I bet you Amazon's making a shit ton of this because it doesn't work how like usually we pay individually, right, for a package. For most companies, they foot the extra, like it costs that much more for second day shipping. Amazon has deals worked out, and I know what I want to say earlier about Amazon. So I was gonna say real quick is Amazon I can almost guarantee you it has flat rate deals worked out with UPS. It's probably like, we give you a certain amount of business, it's this flat rate, or we charge a flat rate per package. Doesn't matter like how big or whatever,
Right.
which is very advantageous for them. If you're a small shipper, you're fucked because you still have to pay normal rates. But the other thing I was going to say is Amazon is affecting, and we can move on from this, but the other thing I want to say is Amazon is affecting from what I read, the transportation industry significantly, because they're taking up so much of the pipeline for transportation that trucking companies a lot of them are being contracted by Amazon, that other people who want to use them either doesn't have trucking services, or they have to pay a lot more because of the limited availability.
Right.
I mean, it's good that Amazon's like having their own services, which, I mean, it benefits them because it can be more reliable depending on how they set it up, but it's probably cheaper as well. So the fact that it's also affecting like the transportation industry so much it's not going to be a good thing going forward. So that's just the other thing I want to say about why I'm not a big fan of Amazon. I've got
it still hasn't changed your habits though. You don't.
It has.
Really? Okay.
I try to buy from other, like I support, like for instance, I support Target more. I'll try and make an effort to buy from Target, but there are times where I still have to buy from Amazon. So I am making a little hypocritical, but I try and make a conscious effort to not buy from Amazon when I can. There's other reasons why, but the two reasons I brought up I think are very valid reasons for, like the transportation thing may not affect the normal everyday person as much, and maybe the first one too, but I think supporting local businesses is a big thing. And like right now with COVID-19, everyone's supporting local restaurants and stuff to keep them from going out of business. Why not do the same thing for the Amazon situation? Why not support local businesses when you can?
Is when you can being only
so
when it's convenient for you, or like will you go out of your way to support them?
So I think it's within, if it's reasonable. So it's a two-part problem, right? There's a lot of mom and pop shops that are closed down now because they went out of business for some reason or another. It may be Amazon, maybe not. Maybe costs of operating a business, whatever. So if you have to drive 40 minutes out of the way to go get something, I would probably say no. You probably still order from Amazon, right? Because it's just, yeah, you can go through your time out of your way to do that, but I feel like most people aren't going to do that. But here's an example. There's a hardware store that's a 10-minute walk from me. There's a Target that's a 10-minute walk from me. I can also get the same day if I wanted to, if I need it that badly. But why not go there, support like a brick and mortar store, like a mom and pop shop, when it's right there, and they have operating costs versus Amazon, where they just have this one big warehouse where it's cheaper for them to operate, and prevents. It's just, you're helping out, I think, what I'd like to think for a better cause. So yes, reasonably, like if it's reasonably or within reason to do it. But the other thing that's annoying is like the hardware store. I've been there 3 times to get something. I'm trying to support them and they don't have the shit I need. So it's also frustrating, but I at least try and make an effort to do it whenever I can.
How much more expensive are they than your typical Amazon or whatever?
It's not, well, some things, like if you need little small pieces of like tools here and there, sometimes it's actually cheaper just to run to the hardware store than to get on Amazon. But it could be the other way around too. But I mean, I don't mind paying a little bit more just to support a local business than to go on Amazon and get the same thing. A lot of companies these days use your data. They sell your data to other companies, even though you may be already paying a membership or some kind of subscription for whatever service you're using. I don't know if you guys want to talk about that, but that's, I think, a very fucked up way of capitalizing on your everyday person.
Yeah, I guess, what's so offensive about it to you? Is it the idea of losing privacy, or do you really care. I guess I don't
Yes.
really. Okay.
So
I mean,
okay, so privacy, yeah, it's just like why can't my data just remain private? But two, like, okay, a good example that David and I talked about in, I think, internet service providers is I think 2 or 3 years ago, there's net neutrality where basically, like, I think the bill didn't pass or something. Either pass or basically the idea is internet service providers can now sell your data on your behalf. Like they can sell your data to anyone, but you're still paying the same price for internet service. So like, let's say back in the day it was $45 for service. It's still 45 now, but they can sell your data and make money off of the data that they collect from you. So why am I paying? So let's say privacy wasn't a concern. Why am I paying the same amount of money right now? Well, and they can sell my data for money. Shouldn't they charge me less if they have the ability to sell my data to someone else?
Yeah, I think you're thinking that it's like unfair of them to make more money off of you and
if
still
you
charge
don't
you the
include
same
privacy, yeah, if you don't include privacy, it's like how come they're allowed to make more money off of me but still charge me the same amount of money?
Capitalism.
yeah.
Well,
It's like
but that's what we're talking about right now, right? It's just like, what the fuck?
That's just how it works. I mean, before companies knew how to use data, like there are a lot of opportunities that they were missing out on, and now that they can do it.
But you should be able, but I think at the very least, you should be able to have the option to opt in or out. They shouldn't be able to automatically just do it. If you say, I don't want you to sell my data, then they shouldn't sell your data. But you don't have that option with internet service.
But you don't care, and like, I guess the heart of capitalism is that you will find some place or somebody that can provide you what you want instead. So
here's
it's
the
not
problem.
offending you enough to the point where it's changing your behavior.
Correct. Yeah.
Well, no, here's the problem. You're kind of forced in this situation. Okay, so there's
They're
a lot
not
of
forcing
areas.
you though. You can
No, hold on. No, you can't.
Exactly.
Okay, so for instance, right, in most areas you have Comcast or AT&T. They're both going to sell your data. Now, if you don't want someone to sell your data, then you either have to pay a lot more money or create your own service. Who's going to do that?
Well, so you have that first option. You can pay more money. Or do you hide yourself behind a wall? Do you use only the dark web or
you don't use the internet? You just don't pay for the internet.
Okay, so can you guys go without internet?
No, but I also don't take offense to that.
But it's extremes is what I'm trying to say. Like you have to go to a very extreme method to be able to not do what shouldn't be done to you in the first place.
Right. I agree. There is no
middle
affordable alternative. There's
exactly.
just a big drop off. I agree. I
agree, and that's kind of fucked up, right?
It's fucked up, but the problem is there's no competitor out there. That's just.
But the thing is, I don't know why this happened because I'm sure there's some law out there, but why does, like, for instance, for cable, right, coming into your house, how come there's only one service provider that's allowed in your area? That sounds like a monopoly in itself.
I don't know if it's allowed. I actually think it's more like, it's not collusion per se, but it's like, I am not going to compete in an area that you're in. This is my kind of understanding from my job, but if you like, let's say you're established in this area, this zip code, and you're really strong, and you're not established in this other zip code, instead of me trying to compete head to head with you in this same zip code, I'm going to go somewhere else you're not in, and I can just establish. That way we're not like fighting and wasting resources trying to acquire the same customer. We're just going to fuck over all the customers in both zip codes.
That sounds like collusion.
It's collusion, but it's almost like, it's also kind of like the smart business practice, because why would if I'm a company, unless I can reasonably say, like, I can take away the majority of your market share, or I can survive much, like my costs are so much more efficient, why would I put myself in a losing position, or a position where I have to like spend a lot of money and resources to beat you, when I could just not go there A save the money of investment, or B I can go to another area.
Okay, but you have Comcast taking over the majority of everywhere. So I mean, it's a losing battle then.
Yeah, I think what's going to happen is, and this is the same with airlines, I think this is the same with network providers. It's just like companies just naturally move toward thinning out the herd. Like,
Yeah, but
aggregation is just natural. It's like, it's not good for the customer, but it's just natural. Like, companies buy companies.
right.
They just.
But this is a different situation. Like I don't know. Maybe I should do some more research. But okay, airlines, telecommunications companies, like cell phone providers, right? The two you mentioned. There is laws that prohibit monopolies, but with cable providers, it's essentially a monopoly, right? Because you only have this one provider.
Because the investment cost is so much. Like,
so it's different arguments.
No, I think it's a natural thing. Like, if the investment costs were low enough that I could go in there, I still don't think. Well, I mean, I guess the company could go in there. I mean, the government.
I mean, how much does it cost to run a line there?
A lot. I mean, I can't just create one line in one zip code. I need to be doing it in like hundreds of thousands of locations, investing in a whole city. I'm not going to, as a company, I'm not going to run one line to one neighborhood just because it's like better for that neighborhood. I need to be able to say, like, I can make X millions of dollars in this area. Like, Google Fiber was supposed to come in Atlanta and be like taking over and surpassing all these other providers. They were providing a lower cost solution. It was cheaper. Yeah. The brand name is there. I mean, people like Google. People kind of trust Google more than these other internet providers. Yeah. The problem is they don't have enough money to invest. There's just, if you want to create like fiber internet, you have to invest in not only like the network fiber and the lines and digging lines or adding to poles. You got to employ all these people to do this, or contract it out, a whole fleet of people with vehicles, and then you got to have like mechanics to service the vehicles and all this stuff.
So I kind of disagree with that. I think what happened, I don't know if it's true, but I'm pretty sure there's legislators or businesses that were basically getting in the way of Google. And
probably that too, but
I would say that's more. I can almost guarantee you, Google first did a cost analysis of, hey, can we put in service here? How much is it going to cost? But then you get all this political bullshit and all these companies, playing dirty that made them pull out of the market. I can almost guarantee you that, because that's what always fucking happens. There's no way Google is going to be like, hey, we're going to go in Atlanta, deploy this shit. Yeah. And they're like, oh, wait, it's too expensive. There's something else that happens. There's no way.
So end of the day, they had to make like a cost analysis decision of, should we pay these governments enough money to lobby for our behalf, to like anti-corruption or
which is
collusion.
Kind of part of capitalism too, but
yeah, it's kind of like the thing how like when Apple wanted to create their second campus, and then all these state governments were providing them not stipend, but what is it called, like
tax relief,
yeah. Or even when Elon Musk was building a plant,
the battery plant.
Yeah, he's building a battery plant in Germany, I think, and then. And then
same thing with the plant in Nevada. Basically, he just took like the best offer from all these other states. Same with the Amazon headquarters.
Yeah.
I think every company does that.
Oh, of course. I mean, it's all like I scratch your back, you scratch mine. What's the best? What's the cheapest? Where I can build or whatever. Like. This is all part of capitalism, what we're talking about.
Yeah. It sucks. I mean, I agree. I don't like the fact that there's like one internet provider and I'm stuck with them, and then they raise my rate every year. Yeah. But I have no other options.
Well, you said you can either spend a lot more or just not have internet, which are extremes.
that's basically it. I could spend more money, which I do, because I cannot live without internet, and my cost tolerance for internet is pretty high. I'm surprised.
So you can watch all that porn. Got it.
But at some point, yes. But at some point, it'll probably be eating into my like Netflix costs. I'd be like, damn, I can't afford to keep paying for Netflix, or I can't afford to pay for TV or something. Like, there is definitely a price point where it's too expensive, but they haven't hit it yet. And they understand they haven't hit it yet, so they keep fucking me. That's basically what's...
Yeah, you get fucked in the ass.
Yeah, they just keep fucking me because they're like, we're just going to keep raising it $5 and see what you're going to do. And like the cost benefits of like every $5 we only lose 200,000 people. It's like worth it. They're like, fuck it.
That's all for this week. Thank you for listening to the podcast, and tune in next week for more stories about what has got us shaking our heads.